Recording is on.
Okay, hope this works. And yeah, let me welcome everyone once again. Thank you so much for joining again for a very special edition of EPF Office Hours. We got two guests today. We got Matt and Nico from Lodestar. So thank you so much for joining us. It's an honor to have both of you here. Yeah, very awesome to have like two core devs working on Consensus Client and Lodestar, two experienced devs. I hope you guys can get some inspiration from them. But before we get to the AMA and questions from the fellows from the audience, I just want them to get to know you a bit. So please just tell me about yourself. I wonder what you did before Ethereum. Maybe what's your background and what led you to work on the core development. How did you end up in Ethereum? Yeah, whoever wants to start, feel free.
So I guess I can quickly start. So Ethereum, I was involved pretty early, I guess, around 2017. I started as like a smart contract developer and like did security audits there. Yeah, but really what got me interested first was Bitcoin, I guess. Before that, I was just interested in having like sovereignty over your own money and just being ungovernable by or like having a system that has no third party that can prevent anything you're doing. So that got me started. So I worked on Ethereum a bit, mostly on the app layer. Then I did some Web2 stuff, which was a bit related to blockchain and yeah, honestly, like just boring consulting work. And then I guess in 2023, I joined the Lodestar team. Since then, been working on the protocol. Yeah, mostly working on Lodestar and also working on the spec side of things.
Nice, thank you. Yeah, Matt, go ahead, feel free.
Hello, my name is Matt. I've been around crypto space for a long time. My first career though was real estate development, and I was taking a short sabbatical. Well, not so short, and I found Bitcoin sitting on a beach and just kind of wanted to know how it worked. So I taught myself to program in order to be able uh, to just not have to trust anybody's bad ideas or lies. I wanted to read the code myself, and and I honestly thought I would end up working in Bitcoin protocol development. And I was at DevCon. I was working for an NFT company at the time. Just one of I had a few tech jobs before I ended up doing this. But I was at DevCon, and I happened to be sitting next to Barnabas. If you know, Barnabas is one of the lead in ePandops, and we just started talking, and he's like, I have somebody you need to meet. And so he brought me over to the Lodestar team, and the rest is history. So it's just an honor and a privilege. Actually, I'd like to say it's humbling and invigorating to work around some of the brightest and most talented people, not just developers, but just brilliant, kind, hardworking, just amazingly impressive people. It is like the core development community is mind-bendingly good at what they do.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Oh, that's awesome. I mean, I didn't realize we have two such an OGs here, going way back, and yeah, I'm excited to hear that. I also like started with Bitcoin basically, and it's great to have the same class of people here. But now, thank you so much for the nice words. Like, I very much agree. Like, working in the core development is very humbling as well. Just like seeing so many great people around. It's very inspiring. So I'm wondering, like, what do you actually work on these days? What is your role in the team? What are your current priorities? Maybe what are you excited about upcoming in the protocol? Yeah, tell us about your work.
My primary job is making sure Nico's happy. and if you guys remember the bracelets, it was WWJD, what would Jesus do? Instead, our team is WWND, what would Nico do? He's the standard for quality in all things. Just a superstar, by the way. Nico's, I wish I had your talent. And I'm engineering manager for the Lodestar team. I am a protocol developer. I do code, and but yeah, I forgot what the rest of the question was. But yeah, I'm a programmer and love being part of everything.
Yeah, maybe what parts of the client or what upcoming features you are excited about, upcoming hard forks, maybe what what are you looking forward to, or yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm working on the partial messages, so doing some networking stuff right now. Also part of the P2P working group, and going to be focused on the gossip sub replacement. So that's going to be something that's going to be upcoming over the next year or so. Very interested to see post quantum come to Ethereum. I think anything that gets in the way of upgrading to what is an existential crisis for crypto, I think is it needs to be shifted, because PQ is the thing that we really need to be working towards. So in particular, decouple consensus, the pub key registry for the PQ keys. There's a number of things I think in the upcoming in I that I think are very important.
Right. Yeah. Lots of important changes, like all around the protocol. I guess that's interesting to hear. Yeah. Thank you, Matt. Yeah, Nico, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so right now I mostly focus on Glamsterdam, I guess. That's the top priority. Just getting Lodestar ready for mainnet, getting the specs finalized in a few places. Yeah, and then forward looking, I guess, also worked a lot on Fossil, which I guess is the main thing I want to see shipped fast. But also all the other, what Matt already mentioned, like the decoupled consensus is pretty interesting. And also just the roadmap in general, getting us closer to PQ readiness are interesting topics. Yeah, but currently fully heads down on Cloas. And once we got that sorted out, I think we have more room also to work on future forks.
Awesome. Nice. Thank you so much. Yeah. And before I hand it over, I hope you guys prepared some questions for Matt and Nico here. But before we get to that, I have one more question I wanted to ask, and whether you have something that you wish you knew a couple of years ago, where you were starting in the core development, like when you put yourself into the position of fellows here, whether you have any advice for them, something that you learned along the way that stuck with you. If anything comes to mind.
So maybe I can start with something. I'm not sure it's a good tip or something, but so initially I was really overwhelmed. So I was really good in my previous job and like one of the top performers or whatever. Then when I started in Ethereum, I was like, oh shit, I don't know anything. And like every problem seemed like it's hard to solve because you just didn't know so many things. And then every time you tried to solve an issue, right, you found some other parts in the protocol you didn't know. And then you spent so much time just learning about that part. But yeah, my main tip, I guess, is that this is just part of the process. And once you dig through this stuff and just invest the time to learn about not every single piece of the protocol, but like the relevant ones to your work, you will, I guess, how I always think about it, your brain will start adopting a way of thinking about the protocol that feels more natural. And then you also have a good intuition of like how to think about different parts. And it's just becomes easier and easier over time to work on the protocol, even if it feels really overwhelming. Like for me, it was like the first 2 years, I guess, was pretty Like I felt like I don't know anything. Now I start to think, oh, maybe I know it a bit. But yeah, it's a never-ending journey, I think, to get better at it.
You know, I think it's very telling that this was the exact same thing I was going to say. So, thanks for stealing my thunder, yo. But it's and I can't reiterate that more clearly. It's an extremely complicated thing that we work on, and there are so many different domains that are unrelated but utilized, and there's so many different facets that they all tie together in this very elegant solution, but the complexity is extraordinarily high with all of them. And it's one of those things that it is going to take time to master. And part of that process is it's a moving target because the protocol is evolving as you're developing your skills. So the things that you learn today may or may not be relevant tomorrow, but they are going to be part of that story that carries you to where that next day is going to start. And just being able to focus on one piece at a time, I think, is probably the best advice that I wish someone would have. I think would have been very helpful is that, you know, just focus on networking, and like you're never going to get everything, or just look at the state transition, or just focus on peer management, and just focus, you know what I mean? Just take one piece of things and then really analyze that. And then once you kind of have a grasp on that, and you can make contributions to that one thing while you're learning, and like the learn as you grow and learn as you build. And then once you kind of mastered that, to move on to the next domain and kind of take it domain by domain. It is a long road. So that's one of those things that I agree with Nico completely. Is it no matter how smart you are, because like you have to remember that the people that you're going to be surrounded with are also very brilliant, very motivated, very diligent people. And so even coming from a place where you are brilliant and diligent and coming from the right place, you're running with athletes. And so it's an incredible opportunity in order to challenge yourself. It's a credible opportunity in order to learn and grow. And if you take that as your fundamental drivers, that you're learning and growing, and you may not be everything at once. And honestly, like, I still wish I could have grown as fast as Nico. Like, his understanding of the protocol is deep and broad, and it speaks to his dedication. And this is one of those things, is that we can work in our own way in order to grow as fast as we can. And as long as that's the framework that you work within, you're going to do fine.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I mean, that's really nice. I think very useful and also very motivating. And yeah, I mean, the complexity of the protocol requires some expertise and focus on a topic. That's what we try to do here in EPF, like trying to get people to focus on a single project, single domain, and sort of own that, because it gets very overwhelming otherwise. Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. It was really nice. So yeah, I hope you guys are excited. Folks, do we have any questions? Anything you would like to chat about? Lots of experience, lots of thoughts here. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a few questions, so feel free to answer whatever you want. But I guess from working on the builder with Marco, it's been really interesting experience so far. And I guess there's kind of two or three things I was going to pick your guys' brains on. Firstly, it's kind of coming down to like collaboration. Like working in Ethereum is way different to like a big company, because you're kind of working across like multiple teams and clients, and you have to like think about like a lot of different stakeholders and a lot of different like I guess like priorities and things like that. So I guess I was wondering like how you guys manage that. Like for me, even gathering all the context and like relevant information about the builder took like a long time, because it touched so many parts of the protocol. So I was wondering what your own process was for that. And then outside of that, yeah, I was wondering how you balance like collaboration with other teams and other like key players on things you're working on, because people have like very different opinions and like care so much about the protocol. So they were kind of my first two questions. Thanks.
I guess the second one is easier to answer. So it kind of depends what the work is you're doing. There's a lot of stuff that is like client specific. So we usually discuss it internally. But even like in Lodestar, we try to have everything public so everyone can participate in the discussions, like even external contributors. When it comes to like spec discussions, especially like on the API, for example, there are so many stakeholders you need to get an opinion from. So yeah, that just requires a lot of coordination, like a lot in the ETH R&D Discord, just talking to other clients, what they think, or just proposing a solution on the spec, and then getting like opinions from others to get a consensus on that. Yeah, I guess following spec. So your first question was mostly how do you follow everything, or how do you keep on top of everything? I think it's just following the spec, but I guess you first need to understand the spec properly to easily follow everything. I guess that's just a difficult thing to keep ahead of everything. Yeah, what I do is I have my bot, or I have like a daily digest for ETH R&D channels that I'm interested in to give me like a daily update summary of what was important during the last day. Just like a 2-minute read for me, and then I can see, oh, there was a discussion I missed or something.
Cool. Yeah, that's interesting. I set up a bot as well for Builder, and that's been like hugely helpful for keeping on track. So that's interesting. Sorry, Matthew, I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. This is a very difficult challenge, especially at first, because as Nico mentioned, there's so much information. Even when you are up to date, it's hard in order to stay up to date, and it just takes the time to do it. Really is the thing, and there's so many different sources of information. So being able to I think the exploratory phase of what's important is one of those things, because you can't digest everything. I think that's very few people have the ability in order to be able to process it all. So finding the things that really matter to you, and this is kind of goes back to that domain specificity, is if there's something that you really are interested in, and just kind of focusing on the topics and discussions that surround that one idea, and the specs that surround that one idea, and the accessory specs, and like for instance the libp2p spec, or the builder spec, or the there's a lot of other that are not the main consensus or deals, and just doing that one small piece, so that you have the mental capacity to not only learn what it is, but follow the discussion in order to be able to start participating in that. And I think one of the things that is probably a key to success is not spreading too thin across all of the different facets, because you'll definitely spin up faster if you do focus and then start to integrate with the process, meaning actively talking. And that's one of those things that is very overwhelming at first, because like you're talking amongst people who have such deep knowledge on these very complex topics, and nobody wants to sound stupid. Nobody wants to say the wrong thing. And so being able to get up to speed to a point where you can actively integrate with the conversation, at least on that one small facet, will go a long way in order to basically get your name out there. And I think once people start to recognize who you are, even if it's just looking at the Builder API, or just looking at the Beacon API, or just looking at the libp2p spec, and that will give you the credibility to start asking questions about some of the other things in order to accelerate your knowledge in expanding into other facets of the protocol. And then once you get to the point where you're Nico and you know everything, and you know all the different bits and pieces, like then you can start to digest it all, because you have context in a way that you don't have to figure out what the words mean, no less what did the sentences mean. Like there's going to be a lot of things that look like equivocation. Do you know what I mean? Like what does that mean? That word mean? And those, you're going to find 1,000 words like that, what does that word mean as a word, and what does it mean in context of this thing, and then what is that thing, and how does that actually play into the rest of the protocol? And like that is just the part that like going deep in one small place gives you the credibility to start asking the questions in other places.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I think Marco was encouraging us to get on calls as well, just as that's a good way of sort of breaking in. So that makes a lot of sense. I guess my last question was just around more so like I know you guys have like worked on and or authored a lot of like specs and EIPs, and I guess I was just wondering, like, given like what you know about the protocol and like the many different directions it goes in, like sort of what's your process for trying to come up with a direction and not getting like paralysis analysis, and because there's so many different ways you can do things. I wonder how you guys balance those things. Yeah, thanks.
Just build it. Like nothing you're going to do is going to be perfect on the first round. And there's so many things that we built 3 and 4 and 5 times. Like we are really at its heart, we are research development programming. Like we are a research and development organization. We are doing something, we are blazing trail that nobody has ever gone down before. And there are a lot of times when, like when you sail, you sail into a bay thinking that you're going around an island, and turns out that's a peninsula, and you just don't know that until you tack. And that's the same approach that you need to take. Is you build it and it may not work, and you build it again, and you may find that you get lucky over time, and that's okay too. And being able to accept the fact that you may not get it right and just do it is fine. Like that's a huge piece of because what we're doing, again, like there may be a best way to do it, but there's a lot of ways to get it done, and you won't actually be able to know what that best way is until you do it.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. That's definitely been like our experience, I think, on the builder as well. Is like, we started with a plan, and like it iterates a lot just based on like what you learn through like implementation and like talking with people and getting different opinions. So, I think like, yeah, I guess what I take from your point is sort of like be quick with that execution, but sort of fluid in how you're planning things. But yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks for that.
And also know that there is as much value in failure as there is in success, because you either you win or you learn, and that's incredibly important in what we do. Like having that mentality that you win or you learn, and maybe you need to learn something different in order to be able to do that next thing, will absolutely take you 1,000 miles farther.
Yeah, that makes sense. Nothing's lost, I guess, in trying something. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of Ethereum R&D, that there are many paths not taken. Lots of research, prototyping, development went to features that end up not happening, right? But it's a learning experience. It's like we learn how not to do it, or like we explored different ways. So definitely not to be worried about that. Okay, folks, do we have some more questions? Anyone else wants to chat with Matt, with Nico? Feel free to raise your hand. I think a lot of topics you can chat about. Please. Oh, we have a question in the comments from Mohit. In your experience, was there a time a bug made it all the way to mainnet, and how did it change the way your team tests or reviews code afterwards?
Yes, like tons of it. And like that's the part of the process. Like it is part of the process. You hope that you can catch the big ones, but you don't always. And if you catch one that's a problem, you do a patch release and you just fix it and move on. Like you hopefully will not make anything that's going to be a consensus failure. Like you want to not take the network down. But that, I mean, looking at what happened at Fulu and the last fork, there was a client, which will go nameless, I might add, protect the innocent. But there was a client that has 25% market share at the time, and they had a bug. And so we were, within 8% of not finalizing. And actually, I think it got down to less because there was a certain portion of the network that didn't upgrade right away. So there was, we were within a couple percentage points of not finalizing after the Fulu fork. And it happens, it does. Like, you would hope that you catch them, but this is real life.
Yeah, but more or less like, I guess always if there's a bug that slipped through to mainnet, which I guess I can't remember the last time this happened for us, but you always want to prevent this from happening again, right? Like we had like our main issues we had in the past were like some weird native library we had that didn't support some old CPU or whatever that affected a few users. And because that was just not covered in our testing infra. So I guess it's one example where we just added a script now that at least sanity checks this, since it's not that easy to test. But yeah, you want to definitely always think about how can you prevent this stuff in the future. I think anything else is not acceptable. Like, issues should never happen twice, basically.
Yeah, agreed. That's a good point.
Yeah, it's a vast protocol with tens of users. There is always so many edge cases that are just impossible to account for. But I want to say, like, the whole testing infrastructure just evolved so much since like the merge. Like, it's all of these new cases coming and just so much more infrastructure for that. Chris, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, I just wanted to kind of piggyback off that. Like, obviously, like with AI kind of becoming more used in like development and stuff, is there anything you guys do now that you wouldn't have done before, just because of like the velocity of like how quickly you like ship code now or merge code, in terms of protecting against bugs and whatnot. And then yeah, I'd be interested to hear like how your own thoughts on your AI development workflow and like how that's impacting you for such a sensitive piece of software.
Yeah, I guess so. I use AI heavily to audit my code. So just trying to find edge cases, which I think now with AI, if you just spend a lot of time digging through the code to try to find edge cases, I think you can probably almost 100% prevent bugs if you do it carefully. But also you can really easily let AI do testing for you. So what I do regularly is just tell the AI to come up with some configuration options or some, like, just give me a kurtosis config I can run, which before it would be a bit of a hassle to come up with all of this yourself. It takes maybe half a day to test something properly. And now it's like an hour, maybe have AI iterate on it and just try to find bugs. Especially like the part where it's like reading logs and it just runs 1 hour and does a lot of testing. And before AI, you had to sit down yourself and read the logs, and you just have way more time now to focus on the code instead of having to spend time on these tedious tasks. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, very, very interesting. There's something else AI related I was going to ask there, but it's slipped my mind. But yeah, that's super helpful. So thanks for that.
Yeah, we can get back to that. Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, do you have any more thoughts, more questions? Yeah, this is a yes.
So I want to actually want to address that's why we need formal verification, because that is actually kind of a spicy topic that we're talking about. And I apologize to cut you off, Stephen. We'll be happy to answer yours next. And this is something that I think is kind of dovetails in with the AI discussion is like it is possible in order to do formal verification for parts of the code base, and which would give us better coverage than spec tests because it's all invariance. But at the same time, most of the problems that end up happening are not in the spec tested code paths. It's all of the caching layer. It's all of the multi-threading and workload management and in our case, like native library integrations and garbage collection happening at the wrong time, or hot path optimization, or like there is so many other things that are far more critical than formally verifying some of the potentially spec verified functions, that it's really difficult to say that that's going to be a panacea. And I think it's also going to be a significant amount of time between now and at some point in the future when AI can actually do this development. Because even on our own team, there is a huge gap between the people who lever AI very well and the people who are less good at levering AI. And I might add, everybody in our team is very good. Do you know what I mean? So like there is an even bigger gap between the people who vibe code and the people who are excellent at levering AI. And you still need to have the squishy gray matter between the ears in order to get the AI to turn out quality code. So I think this is something that it's very important to be able to read the tea leaves, and honestly smell the bullshit that the model comes up with, because most of it is just like it makes shit up.
Yeah, that was actually my question around formal verification. So I think I read a post by Vitalik recently on sort of AI development, and one of his points on formal verification, or at least what I took from it, was that it's only as good as the person who's creating the invariant around it. So like the issue is not formal verification itself, it's can you actually come up with the invariant? And like the issue is, people say if you can formally verify something, it's fully secure, but it's only as secure as the invariants you can come up with. And I suppose some of the worst attack vectors are the things that people don't think of.
Like most bugs in software are buffer overruns or memory reads, like array indexes. Like like that like AI is good at that stuff, but at the same time, like it's not so simple. Like AI has been a great tool, and it's an incredible force multiplier, but it does not replace the job of software development, at least not yet. And honestly, after seeing the latest frontier models, I think it's going to be a while. Even, did you want to? Sorry,
Yeah.
didn't mean to.
Let's go to Steven when he's been waiting.
Yeah. Okay. Hi guys. Yeah, I was wondering, like, what surprised you most about how the Ethereum core development process actually works compared to how you imagine it from the outside? And also, I want to know what was the turning point that made you decide to contribute to the protocol to Ethereum like full time. Yeah, that's my question.
Okay, so like before I was a core developer and kind of got to know a lot of the other people in the core development community, it was this what seemed like impenetrable wall of like super ninjas, and like very much put them on a pedestal. Which I think sometimes I notice when people are like, oh, what do you do? If they actually know what Ethereum is and you say I'm a core developer, like, oh my God, you know what I mean? And the funny thing is now that I've kind of got into it a little bit more, I realize we're just like a bunch of nerds who like to code, and we're just as fallible. We have just as many, you know what I mean? It's it's been enlightening to realize that there are just a lot of really talented, kind people, but they're just kind people, and anybody can do it. You know, if you want it enough, anybody can do it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, before we get to another question by Chris, we have one in the comments about Death Star. Could you walk us through what that Death Star actually is under the hood? Is it more of a coordinated fault injection chaos engineering harness, or closer to a fuzzer targeting specific client behaviors? What kind of failure modes is it aimed at surfacing? Yeah, very cool name, by the way.
Yeah, so for the name, I have to credit Barnabas. He was the one that came up with it. I think my initial name was like Roguestar or something bad, but yeah, so it's not a fuzz or similar to that. It's a malicious lodestar node that just does some like malicious behavior as like a validator or as a proposer. So there's a lot of behavior, especially in CLOAS, where it's like, okay, you can reveal a payload late, or you can withhold it, or you can try to reorg a block you shouldn't be allowed to reorg, for example. That was the initial edge case I tried to test on the DevNet, because there were several clients that didn't have their fork choice implemented correctly, so they attested incorrectly. And with DevStar, I tried to basically reorg a full, like a timely payload, and DevStar would always try to reorg it. And that basically tested if every other client in the network, like Nimbus, Prism, whoever, that they vote correctly and their fork choice works as per spec and not as some incorrect behavior that would be unsafe to ship to mainnet. So that's a lot of these edge cases. It does a whole range of other things now, like doing 2 proposals in a single slot, and just trying to find edge cases in clients. At that point, I don't expect anymore that it breaks other clients, but it's some nuances how clients attest and how their fork choice works, and if they handle these cases correctly.
Cool.
Yeah,
Thanks, Barry. I was going to ask, kind of on Matthew's earlier point about software development with AI, like, where do you see sort of your roles going? Because I kind of see like many roles compressing into one, and ETH is a pretty good example where, like, you take the builder, for example, like you need to know about software development and economics and game theory and like other things. So I'm wondering, is that where you guys see your roles going, that you're going to become like sort of experts in all of these different areas moving forward? Or do you see like sort of your role evolving differently?
No, I definitely do agree with that. I think AI, the one thing that AI is going to be very difficult for initially is junior developers, because what really separates a junior from a senior, from a staff engineer, from from a principal engineer, is that higher level product oriented, big picture thinking that only comes with time. Like, you just have to know more things in order to be able to take more things into account, in order to be able to look at the big picture. And some of the stuff you're talking about is, like, you guys are working on a particularly complicated project, and you have a very, very, very good one of the best protocol engineers in the entire protocol who's helping you and shepherding you. So the ability to, you have a great resource in being able to look at all of these different, very complicated facets that come into what makes the builder what it is. But I think that is a parallel for what's happening in the software industry as a whole, is that you have to kind of understand architecture. You kind of have to understand DevOps. And because I think a lot of the junior roles just, you don't need as many, like, because you can have 27 agents working for you. And it's very difficult as a junior in order to be able to smell out the bullshit, pardon my French, of what the AI is telling you. And like, that's the part that's really hard, is that it can literally lead you down a rabbit hole that you don't even realize is a rabbit hole. And this is where the people who have cut their teeth and have gotten into, a senior role, because they've learned that stuff, I think are the ones who are going to benefit from the AI revolution. And I really do see it as an issue for the industry, and not just software. I think the same thing is true for lawyers, like, because you don't need paralegals. I think the same thing is true as for accounting, because you don't need to have juniors that do that. It does a lot of the basics. And I think this is really a big risk in the economy, is that the younger people today they're missing that rung on the ladder in order to be able to get to the next rung. And being hungry and driven, or having a great opportunity to talk to somebody like Nico regularly, it's a huge benefit.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think like most careers now are probably going to have to integrate like internships, like several internships into like college programs or whatever going forward, because it's just going to be impossible otherwise. But yeah, no, that makes total sense, and yeah, that's definitely what I'm feeling and seeing on the ground. So yeah, I agree fully.
Yeah, recently I saw an article on Hacker News about exactly that. Like, it's basically the hardest time to be a junior dev, or like just generally in the economy, I guess, looking for a job. And then like just the lowest parts of the ladder being replaced by AI. It's a tough time. So yeah, that's why I also believe maybe the fellowship here helps people to actually develop real skills. Yeah, and use AI wisely. Okay, folks, we got another 15 minutes to go. We got a bunch of more people here that I would like to hear from. I hope you have some insightful questions. Please do raise your hand. Feel free to ask. Keshav, go ahead. Yeah, you're muted.
I think you're still muted.
Yeah, if
can
you
hear
are,
us.
yeah, if you can hear us, maybe you can also use the chat if your mic doesn't work, of course. Huh?
Am I audible now?
Yep.
Yeah. So my question was regarding the prototyping. So usually when you are in the prototyping phase, and alongside the spec is being built and EIPs are being implemented, and you have the urge to help and contribute to build a certain a certain checkpoint, so there is some progress built and some things to show for, so that it might help code devs later on for that particular thing. So how do you really go through that ever-changing spec and also make decisions on how that prototype must look like? Because right now, currently we are working on optional execution pros, and the spec of the optional execution pros are quite updating very frequently. So that is why I had this question.
Okay, if you don't mind, let me repeat that back to make sure that that we have that. And I see Nico might want to answer it. So the idea that prototyping is something that happens while the spec is being developed, and how do you preserve the information that was learned through the prototyping process when a spec may not be fully merged, or is still going through review, or an EIP is in progress. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Did you want to take that, Nico, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, like a prototype is, for me, mostly it's just I want to give feedback on the spec, and I want to understand the spec better from an implementation side. Like, at least from my side, it's for me, it's way easier to reason about the spec if I actually implemented it. And then I can also see, okay, this is how it looks in Lodestar, and maybe then I can estimate the difficulty of actually what it means to ship this to mainnet, which sometimes, like from a pure spec perspective, is not clear. So that's the main goal for prototypes. I did so many prototypes that I threw away again. This is just normal, I guess. But yeah, with AI now, you can also iterate quite fast. And but yeah, I think the goal of the prototype should not be to just copy paste the spec with AI and then just see if it works, but really to look at what code it produced and to give feedback on the spec side. So that's, I guess, what's valuable in the end.
And that is actually what I was also going to echo, is that the prototype is not like, you shouldn't be prototyping with the end goal that code will end up getting shipped to main, and it might just get iterated on. Like, really, prototyping is there in order to give you enough information to refine the spec. And if the prototype is built and you realize the spec is good, just commenting on the spec and just saying, hey, this worked pretty well, and here's a branch that I have, going to throw it away. And that's a very common thing. Like, I think the most important contribution that can be made, the highest level of contribution that can be made in the Ethereum ecosystem, is being able to contribute to the specifications and the protocol, because that is the core protocol, and not just lines of code.
The last line was dope. Thank you so much for the feedback.
Great. Yeah, thank you for the question. Nice. Yeah, anyone else? Guys, feel free to raise your hand or write in the comments. Let's keep it going. I think a lot of things you could discuss here about a bunch of topics we already mentioned earlier: the future, the post-quantum thread, the past, the experience, like combining years of these two guys. I think you have a bunch of things to learn, so feel free to ask anything you're curious about.
I'll jump in again if that's cool. Sorry, I'm asking like a billion questions. If no one else is, yeah, I guess two other things where I was interested. You mentioned like quantum resistance earlier, so I was wondering like what are kind of some of the threats to the protocol you guys are most, I guess, concerned in or concerned about or think are like interesting engineering problems. And then on the flip side, like what are things coming to the protocol that you think are like most exciting in terms of actual like real world adoption, or just features you think are really cool or like nice quality of life things that are coming soon that you are excited for?
Yeah, I can maybe quickly talk about the features. I mean, this is just my personal thing I like to see in the protocol, which is like stuff like encrypted mempools. So we combat MEV and like the private order flow that currently exists on Ethereum. I think this would also really benefit users in the end if that problem is resolved. And then just the whole privacy development, like having protocols like Railgun getting like polished or like sorted out, and maybe even natively on the protocol layer via like frame transactions. And just I mean, this is a lot of work on the EL side, not really the CL side also. Yeah, other than that, just getting a better consensus algorithm, like decoupling consensus and coming up with stuff there is interesting for me. Maybe Matt has more stuff on that.
You know, I do. I'm really bullish on account abstraction and encrypted mempools. So I think that, like, making the experience better for someone like my mom, who doesn't understand what keys are and has no idea, and it's going to be even more complicated once we get to the world of PQ. I think is something that is, from an adoption standpoint, I think is incredibly important. For the PQ roadmap, I think there are a couple of difficult engineering challenges, and one of the ones that I think really has gotten no love, and I think will become very, very important, and might actually be outside of the realm of just Ethereum, is how do you do post-quantum for TLS and SSL? Like SSL breaks when you get to PQ. So how do you actually do secured communications to your bank account, to and not just peer-to-peer networks, in a way that's fast enough that really works? And I think the upgrade path from BLS keys to PQ keys is going to be fraught with some challenges. There are some very complicated nuances to that have to be resolved, because ultimately at some point you can break the BLS keys. So like if you haven't upgraded in time, then what are the fallbacks for that? And there's just a lot of other details. Like it's actually a discussion in the Bitcoin world, is what happens to all the accounts that don't get upgraded, and all the BTC that just is sitting there vulnerable. Do you burn it? Do you use it for development? There's just, and those are social challenges, social engineering, and consensus issues, which are much harder to solve than the technical challenges. And I think the biggest thing, and this is, I'll give you a little spoiler here. I'm going to give a talk at ETH Taipei, and I think this is the heart of, really the part that makes me most excited, is people are so concerned with the financialization. Like everything is a new DeFi protocol, or a new way to monetize, or a new way in order to essentially extract value, or do rehypothecation, and to me, I think that is something that it is antithetical to why at least I know me, and why Nico joined. Is Ethereum is a root of trust. It's about privacy, it's about sovereignty, and there are so many other things, there are so many other use cases to blockchain technology that are not explored, because there's very little value in them, or at least there's very little financialization and value extraction value. Like meme coins, just about taking money. It's a gamble, and that was what the ICO boom was. Most of those things were junk. Like there was no real utility there. And I think this is the paradigm shift, because many of you may end up doing protocol development, but anybody who's sitting on this call is of the best and brightest and most diligent people in the space. And if you don't end up doing protocol development, I would venture to bet that you guys will move on to doing something in the application layer on Ethereum. And this is the part that I challenge you, is, can you find the use cases that root of trust really matters? Like money is an illusion that only becomes real if we all agree. And that's why we build blockchain technology, is so we can all recognize that this is money because we believe in it. And we can create this synergy without having to trust somebody that prints the money. But there are so many other use cases for trust, whether it be supply chain, or it be credentialing, or digital identity, or government accountability, or like on and on and on. I mean, you could create a decentralized insurance broker that you put your money into a risk pool, and then that gets paid out as claims are made. And like that could be smart contract protocoled, like smart contract built, or real estate investment trusts, or there's just a whole range of ideas when it comes to what do we use trust for in society that don't require or have no bearing on DeFi or value extraction. You literally don't need an L2 for it. You just need to store a root of trust for a database. Like there's so many little nuances. And that's the part I think that is most exciting and most important for not only Ethereum, but for the entire ecosystem to be able to be the tool that we built it for, a tool that breaks the incumbency between wealth and power.
That was pretty cool. That was a good speech. I agree with all of that. I was going to say, your point on sort of like how do you get funding for things that really matter is definitely something I'm really concerned about, because like there's been several projects I've worked on now that like create great technology, but funding them is really hard, even though they're like really needed. So I'm really interested in sort of experiments that ETH is doing to sort of focus on public goods funding for things like that are like necessary. And on the privacy front, like I think PSE is doing some really cool stuff. I've been following. I think they've revamped the like Macy project and stuff, so I'm pretty excited for that. But yeah, that was great. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, that was really great. I think, like, I mean, we are at the top of the hour here, but yeah, thank you so much, Matt. I think it was a really nice, pretty motivational speech there at the end, and I really appreciate this coming from both of you guys. I mean, I really feel that you guys are in for the ideas of sovereignty, freedom, like this is all about, and I mean that's what keeps us going here. So that's yeah, it's very exciting to hear. And yeah, I think it was a really nice way to sum it up here, to wrap up for today. And I just want to say again, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an honor. It's been really nice to hear from both of you. I think educational, inspirational, very great indeed. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It was really nice talking.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much to both of you, and thanks for all the fellows who made it today. Thanks for the nice questions. Chris, thank you so much for carrying it. It's been very active today. And yeah, I'll see the rest of you guys on Monday for the next EPF call. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone. It's been great. Have a great rest of the day.
See you guys.
Bye.